Stop podcast surfing. You're in the right place. I've always wanted to sing. Hi, everyone. I am your host, Kimbralon B. I'm a licensed counselor, but I'm not your counselor. And I'm also the host of Good Tea and Reads. So I created Good Tea and Reads so we could use everyday topics, issues, and current events to explain the importance of mental health awareness. Most mental health discussions are so important because so many people suffer in silence or do not realize that they're dealing with mental health issues because of stigma, society, and family expectations, and other reasons. Some episodes on Good Tea and Reads are heavy and will make us think. Other episodes will be very enlightening or refreshing. But either way, you will have an awesome experience. Here's the disclaimer. Any information shared on Good Tea and Reads is not a substitute for seeking professional care from another professional. Any information shared on Good Tea and Reads is not meant to diagnose the subjects or persons discussed on this podcast. Also, any information shared on this show is for conversational, inspirational, and educational purposes as well. So, all right, this intro is long enough. All right, so go grab your cups really quick. Go, 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 go. So I can pour this piping hot tea. Meet me inside on this episode in one, two, three. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Good Tea and Reads. I am your hostess with the mostest, Kimbralon B. Why? The crowd goes wild. Hey everyone, this is Kimberlon. I am so glad that you are here today. I know it's been a minute since I made the last episode, right? But y'all, I've been in here, I've been working, been grinding on these streets, trying to make things happen. And we are filming from Arizona, and I don't know if you watch the news, but it's been a lot going on here. I mean, it's been flooding and everything else. I mean, this hurricane did its thing while it was here. But we are in the desert anyway, so sometimes it's a good thing, right? So Monday, it was 20 minutes, and in 20 minutes, it like tore up an entire town. It was flooding, trees down, property was destroyed. So there's been a lot going on here. So bear with me. Well, that's my excuse that I'm using, and I'm going for it, and I'm going to use it. So, just a little bit about me. If you haven't been listening to the show and this is your first time tuning in, I am a licensed counselor, been in the field for almost 15 years. And even though I'm a licensed counselor, I am not your counselor. Okay. And this is the disclaimer that I'm throwing in right now on Good Tea and Reads. Any information that we use on this show is for conversational, inspirational, and educational purposes, and it does not substitute you. Yes, you. Say, look at you and say, you is me, right? You, me. Okay, it does not substitute you getting a higher level of care where you're at, okay? Even though we are professionals, we don't know your story, so we don't want you to use any information on this show to diagnose yourself. Please go pair up with someone that's near you, someone that you get along with, okay? So, y'all, I just wanted to get that out of the way. And here on Good Tea and Read, sometimes you catch me in audio, sometimes in video, right? And sometimes I'm solo, right? You just hear my voice. And I told you there'll be times when I will team up with some pretty amazing people from around the world. And guess what, listeners? Today is your day, and viewers. See, you get a double treat. Today is your day. I'm actually teaming up with someone that is super amazing, y'all. And her name is Danielle Gonzales, and she is a healer. And I'm really excited that she's here. I'm going to actually let her introduce herself, but first I have to share my introduction for Danielle. So, Danielle, just give me a moment. Danielle is amazing. So I met Danielle from a mutual friend, and I attended this meeting, and the energy that Danielle brought to the room, I was like, yo, I don't know. She got some good energy. And I'm like, let me stay away because I don't know if I'm all the way healed. But Danielle was super amazing and nice. And the mutual friend connected us. I reached out to Danielle, and those that know me know that I'm like super duper shy. But when I reached out to Danielle, Danielle was so welcoming. And I mean, we had the best conversation. And I really should have been recording that conversation because we had some dialogue on that conversation. And I was like, yes, can you come to my show? And she said, yes. So we got a match right here on Good Tea and Reads, everyone. So I wanted to share that much about Danielle, but I want to give Danielle an opportunity to introduce herself.
Thank you so much, Kimberlyn, for having me on. I am so excited to be here. My name is Danielle Gonzales, and I am the owner of The Grateful Koi. So, what I do is I am actually a intuitive coach and an energetic healer. So, I'm a trained Reiki master teacher. I've studied channeling, energetic healing, sound healing, all of the fun stuff, but that's not really what I consider to be special. I don't really like to talk about titles. I feel like it's kind of like, it separates us. So I'm just a person who has struggled in life in general, as everybody does. And, in struggling alone, there's such an opportunity for connection, and really that's the medicine. And so the medicine that I offer is just that connection to allow people to return back to themselves and to just do that in a safe space. And that's one of my greatest passions in this world, and I'm honored to be here on your show, and I'm honored to share that with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And when you meet genuine people, everyone out there that's listening, you just know. And that energy that Danielle's talking about, definitely can feel it when you in her presence. So I didn't even tell anybody the topic of today, Danielle. They probably can guess. So here on Good Tea and Reads, y'all know I try to be super fancy, and I either try to put tea in there because tea is actually a substitute for information. And so when you usually hear somebody spilling a tea or this type of tea, it's usually like gossip. So I wanted to just spin that narrative, and I want to give good tea, good information on the show. And the reads part is actually if there's any research out there, any books or anybody that's written books, I like to bring them on the show. If I don't bring them on the show, they're not able to come. I like to review their books because everything that we do involves mental health. Sometimes some people may not be able to make that connection, but it's definitely a connection. And those that know me know that I am a mental health advocate, right? I will go to all ends of the world to talk about the importance of mental health awareness. And how this came to be, before we find out a little bit more about Danielle, was that, as I mentioned before, I am a licensed counselor. And so I'm in an office, right? Or I'm virtual. But unfortunately, I found out that not everybody who needs mental health reaches me. It could be barriers that I call it, that little ugly barrier called stigmas. And stigmas are things that bring shame, that prevents us from getting the care that we need. Or it could be finances, so forth and so on, that's out there. But my job, and I challenge myself with this, was to step outside of the counseling. room and get on the road, get my show on the road and educate the community at a whole, to let everybody know, one, it's okay not to be okay. And it's okay to focus on your mental health. I've said it before and I like to say it at every show. It's easy for us to talk about healing. And, when it's in a physical health context, right? We'll say, oh, I had a cold, but I feel better, right? I mean, we'll say it there and we'll stop it there. But y'all, sometimes healing is not just a physical illness. It could be trauma. It could be other things that will separate you from yourself. And with Danielle being here, that's where Danielle, a plug-in partner with you, and will bring you back to yourself. So the name of this show is, drum roll please, the Healing Tea. And this is the tea on healing and how it helps with mental health. So y'all, let's get ready to go, okay? I do want to open up with a quote that I found it was pretty interesting, and I wanted to share with you, Danielle, and I wanted to share with our viewers and our listeners. And the quote is, the soul always knows how to heal itself. The challenge is to silence the mind. And that's a quote from Caroline Mist. And that really spoke to me about today's episode, because it said the soul always knows how to heal itself. Sometimes we can get so hurt, so wounded, that our soul just feels weak. And if we don't have what we need on the inside to heal ourselves, we won't be able to heal and we will walk around like wounded. And so that spoke to me. But then it says the challenge is to silence the mind. So we know about the healing piece, but if we have to silence our mind, that's where mental health comes in. We have to figure out how to silence our mind. So, all right, Danielle. So, we're getting ready to have a conversation. Feel free to elaborate as much as you want. This is geared toward our viewers and listeners. Some of them probably haven't even heard about healing, know anything about mental health. I know we may have professionals that tune in, but y'all, this is for our viewers and listeners. So, we want them to move past stigmas and whatever's stopping them from getting to that healing place and to work on their mental health. So, without further ado, we'll get started. So, Danielle, since people are just tuning in, and I know there could be 1,000 definitions of healing out there, right? So, to level set our show, could you please provide us what is healing?
Healing is not what you see on Instagram, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times we see and we have this expectation for healing, like, and there's usually the word should that pops the head in there, right? Like, I should be further along than this. I shouldn't feel this way. Or, I've made too many mistakes, or I'm too broken, or those types of things. But what healing is really is just allowing yourself to exist and be exactly where you are, not stigmatizing and not labeling yourself any further. So, not having secondary emotions or labels about where you're at right now. If you're not feeling 100%, just allow yourself to not feel 100%. Meet yourself where you are, because that's already where your soul exists, exactly like Carolyn said, right? Your soul
Right.
is exactly where it is. It's ready to do its thing. But what happens is we start to have all of these thoughts when the mind doesn't get out of the way about where we should be and what we should be doing and how far along, instead of just allowing that to be and allowing our soul to kind of drive the actions, or our motivations or our connections, or just allowing ourselves to feel, because a lot of the times healing happens when we just allow ourselves to feel what we actually are going through and what we're actually feeling. And I'm sure you experience that all the time as a counselor.
Yes. Yes, I was just listening to when you were talking, and it's like, should, yeah, that word is definitely in the way, and it definitely stops people. I should be feeling better. Just like you said, when somebody has experienced trauma, like years ago, maybe as a child, then once you meet with them in the counseling space, they're like, I should be over this by now. But it's that should.
Yeah.
That's the should that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
So I tell people quit shooting on
Yeah.
yourself.
That's what I'm saying. So exactly, like, don't put it all over yourself, right?
Yes, because we do it. We do it. And I'm sure that our viewers and our listeners can relate to that.
Oh yeah.
Because we've said it. We're all guilty.
Oh yeah.
Like I mean, I know even as a licensed counselor, I have said it and probably have said it recently too. And I really like, Danielle, when you shared about, feeling we need to give ourselves time to feel because we want to move on. We want that apology or we want something really fast so we can move on. There was a book that I read one time. I forgot the name of it, but in the book, it stuck out to me because it says that sometimes we should sit in that emotion,
Mm-hmm.
sit and feel that, because instead of dodging it, because if we sit we can deal with it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Our body and our soul has a wisdom. But even just like even there's so many wisdoms, so much wisdom that can come through, even just somatically, right? Like just allowing yourself to understand where am I feeling this discomfort? Or maybe it's an exhilaration, maybe it's a tingle, maybe it's a tightening, maybe it's expansive. But once we kind of put the focus back on the body, that's when we can start to it can teach us those feelings. They can get hot, they can expand, they can make us have an urge to connect with somebody or communicate with somebody, or just sometimes even something like grief, it calls us back to ourselves. And so if we can sit in it and just be in that state, then there's a reason why we're being called back to ourselves, why we're having to summon some of these, or just kind of allowing things to come up. Sometimes it's not so much as reaching for the healing, but just allowing it to rise up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so true. Definitely, I can totally relate to that. So gosh, this is amazing. So I know healing, it sounds phenomenal, and I want people to understand and be able to acknowledge that. But I want you to share with us what encouraged you to pursue your healing journey. Was it a personal journey? Was it a professional journey? Was it a combination of both?
I would say it's definitely, it turned into a combination of both, right? Because ever since I was very young, I always felt like I wanted to be maybe like a psychologist or a counselor, but like at the end of the day, those things never came to be. It never felt 100% right, but I really enjoyed having those one-to-one interactions. And I really enjoy just holding that space for other people, just allowing them to be themselves. I realized this when I was in the corporate world and having, in leadership, having one-to-ones with people or trying to, communicate the need to do X, Y, and Z. What I found is that at the root of every single issue is always a person, or it's always a feeling, right? And so even in
Yes.
corporate, it's like your assets are your people, your greatest assets are your people. And so if you can really understand what they're going through and what makes them tick, what makes them scared, what concerns they have, if you address those, then you eliminate some of the barriers to accomplishing whatever goals you have, even just on a corporate level or on like a, work day level. But taking that further, understanding that that is a real passion that I had, and understanding that, there's lots of stigmas out there, like you talked about previously, lots of barriers to help, to care. I know I personally have been through so many different types of situations where, at some point or another, I felt alone in my healing. And to me personally, there's no worse feeling than to be struggling with something that's so complex and so heavy and feel like you have nowhere to turn. To me, there's absolutely no worse thing than people can experience. And you can feel alone in a room full of people. You can feel alone by
Yes.
yourself or in a room full of people, and neither one of those feelings are great. Because just because you're alone doesn't mean you have to feel lonely. That's
Yeah.
kind of a state of the soul and of the heart and of the mind and a union of those things. But so for me personally, I've had a lot of experience with, even just personally with, things like heavy issues, like, parental issues, struggling with trauma, or the mother wound is something that I've dealt with.
Mhm.
Struggling with domestic violence, domestic abuse, struggling with, loss of loved ones, loss of friends, just seeing just different types of socioeconomic disparages, or experiencing those myself, and just, being able to utilize those experiences and channel them into creating that safe space to where I can connect with other people, not just as like, oh, I've studied this, or oh, I've read this book and it was so great. But to just understand that, like, I've been there. I don't know exactly what you're going through, or exactly how you feel right now, but I've experienced a shade of this, and I feel like I can hold that space for you and go through this journey with you at your own speed, at your own pace, and, offer just some support through that process. And, if God or spirit gives me any other information along that process to help us in that space, then that's a huge blessing. And, we go for it from there. But, um, honestly, I've just really left the road wide open to see where this goes, and I enjoy doing it greatly, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else.
Nice. That's such wow. It's such a I'm using the word sacrifice, but in this world of today, I like to use that word because the world can actually make us like super selfish, and sometimes it takes a sacrifice in that way to actually get us to care about others, because the world teaches quite the opposite,
Yeah.
everywhere we go. So, yeah, so thank you for even listening to that call of healing. And sometimes we get to a place where I've been dealing with my own stuff, and I don't want anyone to feel this way.
Mhm.
And just like you said, helping people get to the root. It's important to get to the root. And I've even seen on the counseling side, so many people jump ship before they get to the root because it hurts. And then I want to tell them, spoiler alert, it hurts anyway. But the difference is, if we get to a place that we can remove that root, take care of that root, acknowledge it, speak to it, and remove it how we need to, then it may hurt, but then that's where that healing can begin.
Absolutely. I couldn't
Y-
agree more.
Yeah, so I was just thinking about it, because I'm in counseling, and you are a healer. So for our viewers and listeners, how is healing different than counseling or therapy?
So the biggest thing that I've noticed, and I was actually told this by a fantastic trauma counselor that I was talking with, and she said, the difference in counseling and what you do is that, in counseling, it's very cognitive, it's very in the head, right? So it's very easy to kind of limit how deep or how fast or how far you can go based on, what that psyche is ready for, what you're personally ready for, where your thoughts are kind of at, or even just kind of defend. Because the some of the most difficult people to work with, and even including myself too, is people who know exactly, like, I know what IFS is, I know what CBT is, I know what
Hmm.
projection is. They've studied these things. They've read a ton of self-help books. There's not a Brene Brown book unturned, right? Like, there's all that stuff
Yeah,
out there. And you vibe with it, and you realize it, and you understand it, but it's kind of a form of staying up a here above the neck. You're not going into the body, right? You're kind of
right,
staying up here, and you're talking about things, even with the most fantastic counselors, and I firmly believe in the need for mental health and balancing that with healing, and spiritual and emotional wellness and all that kind of stuff. But it's just a different process, and it's actually a very um tailored process, because you all have very specialized training, and you know exactly what needs to be done, and you know the steps, and blah blah blah. But sometimes if people aren't ready for that, then they can kind of, maybe not go as deep as they need to, or it may take a little bit, because you're kind of working from the top down, almost peeling back those layers. So with what I do, it's a little bit different because I don't really consider, so the information that I receive information, as people would say, maybe psychically. So, but I receive that psychic information directly into my body. So I receive it like almost psychic somatically. So I will have actual physical feelings and indications in my body. I could feel things like heat, pain, tingling, numbness. I can feel like I'm bigger than I actually am. I could feel like I'm, smaller than I actually am. All these different, I felt what it's like to be inebriated because that's how somebody had passed. So like there's all these different types of things, but basically it's the energy that's surrounding or that's within their aura or their energy center or their body. So basically all of these, your body is always keeping the score. Your body is
Yes.
always remembering everything that happened emotionally, experientially, traumatically. All of those things are stored within the body, within the energy center. And so when people come in to speak with me, or even if it's virtually and I'm speaking with somebody, I'm able to feel those sensations in my body on behalf of that person. And so when I'm feeling that energy, it completely bypasses the brain, it completely bypasses their thoughts. The brain doesn't have a chance or an opportunity to jump in and kind of tailor that story to what they're ready for, right? And
Mhm.
so that's kind of where I work. I work more from the bottom up, so from the root cause. So they may be coming in like, I'm having issues with my boyfriend, I'm really struggling with blah blah blah. But then I'm getting an indication and pain in my right shoulder, and it's very subtle. And so to me that tells me like I feel like there's something going on paternally or with male relationships, and it's very subtle. So I feel like it may not be forefront in center of mind, but it's absolutely the greatest and highest contributor as to what repeating patterns are going on in your life. So just they may come in for something completely different, and the session may go completely, sideways or a different direction, but it's always for their greatest and highest good. So their brain doesn't have a chance to get involved. They are allowed to just call attention to that specific thing or those situations and just explore them. There's no rushing, there's no tailoring. It's just like, hey, how's the relationship been with you and your dad? What's been going on there, and just to explore it. So it gives them a direction to start exploring in a safe space. And then once that root is identified, then I highly and strongly encourage people to go work with a mental health counselor, psychologist, therapist, to work through those specific issues. So it really can work hand in hand, but it just works from two different directions.
Perfect. Perfect. I know I was getting ready to ask you that. I'll probably have you expand on it a little more. Thank you for explaining that. But just asking you again, so do you see that healing can complement mental health, or should it happen at separate times? What would you recommend?
So we are whole persons, right? Like we're not
Yeah.
just, we don't just need to exercise. Even if we're just exercising in the physical realm, we still need to partner that with eating right, right? And
Yes.
so it's not just what we're physically eating, but what are we mentally receiving? What are we
Hmm.
receiving through our eyes, through our ears, through contact? How are we processing those things mentally? Because it's not just, you can usually go to most healers and get your energy healed, right? If they're working in
Hmm.
integrity, if they know what they're doing, you can get it clearing at any time, but like that's not to say that you're not going to be taking in more negativity.
Hmm.
If you're not having the ability to work with somebody to establish those boundaries, to stand up for yourself, to say like, I don't need to take on your energy anymore. Or
Right.
I can set these boundaries and it's okay, or I don't have to have shame over the way that I feel, and being able to work through those things on the mental health side. So that way, whenever you do get your energy cleared, or whenever you do bring things up into the point of awareness from whatever root cause they're stemming from, is that you're not intaking more junk, like more energetic junk, more negativity into your space, into your body. You're able to, just like with weightlifting, you're able to start building strength and resilience on the mental health side, but you're also making sure that you're staying clear, that you're healing, that you're addressing your emotional needs. If there's anything energetic that's stuck, you can use energy healing to help release that and to kind of establish some more of that spiritual foundation and strength. But it's also important to experience and establish the mental boundary and strength and resilience as well, and along with your, what you're putting into your body, food wise, drink wise, substance wise. All of that stuff has a vibration. Every single thing that we do is made to work in concert. And so that's why I say that healing, absolutely, when it comes to spirituality or emotional healing, energetic healing, is so important when it's paired with mental health healing. And the majority of my clients are encouraged to, or are currently seeing a mental health therapist as well as working with me.
See, everyone, thank you for sharing that. So they go hand in hand, all right? It's like
Absolutely.
peanut butter and jelly,
Yep.
everyone.
Yep.
And I like that because then you can see me, you can see Danielle, and we can all work together and we can tag team on that mental health stigma, that trauma, whatever's holding you back, and we can address it, right? So, in other words, viewers and listeners, we got your back. We definitely got your back. So I know I mentioned earlier about stigmas, and I know you mentioned about stigmas, and we had a very good conversation when we spoke about stigmas. But as a counselor on my side, stigmas, and just a reminder to everyone that that's the shame. Um, this may sound familiar that if I go to see a counselor, people may think that I'm crazy, or you may hear that don't go tell our business stays in our house, whatever happens in the house stays in this house. And people that belong to the spiritual community may hear that you can pray it away, just pray it away. And we're not discounting, that. I just want to throw that out, those that's listening. But sometimes that trauma or whatever needs to be healed or whatever needs to be worked on has such a stronghold that it may be challenging for you to get to that place. Sometimes you need to pair up with somebody. And I've noticed, Danielle, just to be transparent, and I was actually talking to a friend about this, which is interesting because when I was coming up with this question, I was like, yeah, I'm talking about stigma, but here's another thing when it comes to the healing and helping profession, that sometimes people that are spiritual may think that we're demonic or trying to play God.
Mhm.
It's not our case, nothing that we signed up for. But all of these things stop people from coming to see us, right? And so I've noticed that on the counseling side. Now, do you happen to see stigmas or experience stigmas on the healing side? And if so, what stops people from seeking healing services from you?
Absolutely. So the very similar to what you just said, like, I'm trying to pray it away. I'm trying to be strong in my faith. Or even, some of the religious beliefs, as far as, can act as a barrier to allowing people to fully experience and embrace their own spiritual or intuitive gifts. So that's a huge barrier, and I work with a lot of people who have intuitive gifts. Most, like, all of us are pretty much, it's one train of thought. I understand and respect that, but most of us are spirit inside of a human body. So we all have the propensity for spiritual gifts. We all have intuition. We all have the sixth sense. We all have, that feeling in our stomach or in our chest where we get tight when something doesn't feel right, or something doesn't seem right, or something seems kind of, not right going on. So everybody has the ability to have those senses. But sometimes, they've grown up or been raised around in an environment to where it's like there's certain things that are labeled as black or white, wrong or right, good or evil. And so what I really try to do is help people understand that, if we are made a certain way, that's because, Great Spirit meant us to be this way. If we have something in our heart that's, geared towards helping other people or healing other people, even, whatever that may mean, that's because we're meant to need a higher power, and we're also meant to need other people in the community. We were never built to not function as a tribe. We were never built to just be alone all of our lives and deal with all of these hard experiences on our own and suffer alone. So the stigmas that I see are pretty heavily, sometimes people come here because they don't trust mental health counselors. And that's kind of one of the things that I try to do is show and highlight how, working with somebody who is well trained and well intended and experienced
Mhm.
in the mental health field can only amplify their healing and expand and expound on their abilities if they're trying to grow those, or if they're trying to become more clear, intuitive, or you know uh, free from some of these blockages and those types of things, or help them not get additional blockages, those types of things. So I try to be, that connective bridge between, the mental health field, the medical field, and the holistic field. But also, a lot of times I see people who are kind of even scared to come here, or they feel bad coming here because they're like, I was raised, Catholic, or I was raised, in a certain type of faith, and I was taught that this is evil. And so, and that can be something that's very hard to work through, right? Because like those beliefs, that fear, you want to do the right thing, but sometimes it's hard to know if what you're doing is the right thing, or if it's going to lead to something more negative, or consequences, or those types of things. So I really try to create safety in that space. And I also share with people, not that it's required, but that, like, I am of the Catholic faith. I converted last year. And so I tried to share that, like, you can have intuition, and that can be given by God. And you can also practice your faith, and have that love and have that respect, and to just kind of help people feel into what feels appropriate for them, and to do what feels appropriate for them, because that's really what's going to work for you. It's if you do something that you're completely, against, or like it doesn't feel right, then that's, allow yourself to be in that space. Maybe it'll change one day, maybe it won't, but again, it's kind of just meeting people where they are, and talking through some of those stigmas, talking through some of those fears, and trying to get to the root of those things, and just trying to hold that space and allow them to be whatever they need to be, and explore safely, without trying to hard sell, without trying to convert, without trying to say this is my way or whatever. I've worked with people of all different types of faith and absence of faith as well, and I love that, because I always learn something in the process as well. And I feel like if you allow that to take place, and if you allow those differences to kind of interact, then both of you have an opportunity to learn and to grow in whatever faith or even lack of faith that you have. You know what I mean? Just allow
Mhm.
yourselves to be.
Thank you. Thank you. See, it's just stigmas everywhere. And that's what we're here for. We understand. We understand how people think. What I do like about what Danielle shared, and this is definitely what I share. If we have to talk about those stigmas, let's work through those stigmas. It's very important because those stigmas are definitely those barriers that stop you from experiencing that wholeness that Danielle spoke about. So, thank you for elaborating on that. All right, so I want to share, viewers and listeners, me too. So everybody knows I'm transparent. So this question I'm going to ask Danielle, I'm also asking for myself as well. So, can you share a little of what people will experience when they come to see you? Because I know we just talked about stigmas. Some people may be like, I don't know. So, can you share with us what
Yeah.
we would experience coming to see you?
Absolutely. So the most common service that I provide is what I call intuitive coaching and energetic healing, or Reiki healing. So, and those types of appointments are broken down into two parts. So first, we're doing the talking. So, you're coming in, we're making sure that you feel safe. I'm keeping a safe distance. I'm not all up on your business. You can, we sit down, we hang out, we talk just like you and I are doing right now. Or if it's virtually, we'll just be talking over the screen just like we're doing now. And then as we're talking, I'm feeling your energy, because I've already been given permission to connect with you, because we're here and we're sharing. And so in that process, it's a very organic conversation. I'll start feeling different things in my body. I may start feeling some anxiety coming up, and I'll feel where that anxiety is presenting, and where it's presenting will actually help me understand like how prominent it is in your life, if it's about the past, if it's about the future, you know, if it's something having to do with a certain family member, I may feel into that side and I may start asking questions. So, really, the way I describe it is almost like my body is playing charades with me, and it's helping me to just gently guide that conversation with very targeted questions specific to that person, their history, and their life, and whatever may be most prominent then. And so, with that process, it allows that person to explore in a very safe way. If it's going too much for, their comfort level, I always let them lead and kind of talk through whatever they need to. But really, I found that once you get that ball rolling, and once you just present something to somebody, they do really kind of want to talk about it. Like, but
Mm-hmm.
they just, even sometimes people come in, and I'm people. Like, when I go to my therapist, I don't even know why I'm upset. But like, once that is brought into the awareness, then yeah, I do want to talk about, yeah, this is, I don't like it because of this, or this is how I feel, or this is what's going on, or this is how it's affected me. And so like, once you just kind of like create that little slit, usually the water just starts flowing through. And people, exactly like you said, the soul always knows how to heal itself. So
Mm-hmm.
this is a very soul-led experience from whoever I'm working with, where their soul is the one who's leading it. Their soul just happens to be talking to me through my body as we're also sitting there having a conversation. So usually this process will last maybe like about an hour, and just sitting, talking, exploring, sharing as we're talking. I'll maybe ask some questions of like, maybe about, have you thought about, setting a boundary, or like, have you thought about like, doing something with that energy, like working it into, working with a counselor, or going and exploring health options for your body to kind of heal somatically, hot yoga, whatever it is, breath work. um but just going through just a really organic and very customized discussion with each individual person. And from my personal experience, every single time that that conversation has kind of come to a close, the person already feels better, because they
Mm-hmm.
were able to just share and explore and bring things into their awareness. And I always say that awareness is 90% of our healing in the first place, because then once we're aware of what the root is, exactly like you said, then we can decide what we want to do with it. Are we ready to dig it up now? Do we want to put some weed killer on it? Do we want to just let it sit and look at it for a while and study it? Like, where are we in that process? And every single answer to that is okay, right? It's where they are. And then, so after that process, then we actually transition to the table work. So then that they would lay on the massage table fully clothed. If they're cold or if they want to be cozy, they can have a blanket. I will use tools such as Reiki energy healing, which for me personally is very prayer led. So I'll call in, all of my guides and all of their guides, and set the intention for their greatest and highest good. I'll use tools like sound healing instruments, like sound bowls, and tuning forks, like very specific type of tuning forks, depending on whatever is going on in their field that day. Intention setting, guided meditation, and just gentle hands-on healing if they're comfortable with it. I always ask before. Sometimes people prefer not to be touched. Totally fine. Um, so I just kind of meet people where they are, and every session really is a little bit different. But at the end, the majority of what people tend to share is that they feel so much lighter, that they feel sometimes even a little bit dizzy, in a good way. But and sometimes they get a little bit sleepy afterwards too, because all of that stuff coming out, you're releasing toxins, and your muscles are letting go of that trauma. So it's a really interesting experience. Sometimes people see things as they're laying on the table. They may see colors, they may feel sensations in their body. I've had people feel that energy move up and out, depending on what needed to be released. So it's really interesting. It's very individual, and there's no one way that it should or shouldn't go. It's whatever that person needs at that time.
Wow, thanks for sharing that. I know. I was like, wow. I was gonna say, what if somebody's being resistant? How? But you probably do. You just kind of go from there. If it seems like, I know this is a bonus question. Like if there's some resistance, either from that person that may not want to let it go, may not want to throw
Yeah.
that weed killer on it yet.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. There's definitely been experiences like that. And some of the people, usually it's people who they have both a mother wound and a father wound. And though it's very difficult because they are not used to opening up. They're used to being very self-sufficient, very independent, and they have a strong wall around certain things. And that's
Yes.
where the benefit of having kind of the cheat codes of like what information is being sent to me that needs to be brought into their awareness. And usually what happens is like there will be a breaking point. So whatever information spirit presents to me allows me to just try to gently present that to them. And usually that's where I see things like the tears or, some
Mm.
of that breathing or tightening, like, when somebody's kind of starting to understand and to let some of those things go. And that those are the moments that I'm actually most grateful for because that means if they're willing to let that go in this space that they feel comfortable and that they know that their body and their soul's ready to not have to carry that anymore.
Wow. That's amazing, everyone. So I was glad that you actually shared that experience with us. So, viewers and listeners, any stigmas you may have thought, any hocus pocus or anything out there, and I'm not poking fun, but sometimes we can really think things are like hocus pocusy and Harry Pottery and stuff like that. I'm glad that Danielle actually spoke on that experience. But Danielle, I mean, this has been a pleasure, and we're almost at the end. I could talk to you forever, but I do want you to actually share about your business, how to book with you. Do you do virtual services? I know you mentioned it. Do they have to be in Arizona? Can you meet with them anywhere? And then where we can find you on social media or websites or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just kind of list some of the most common things that I do. So I do a lot of home clearings and home blessings, as well as office clearings and office blessings. Um, Very popular in the fall right now for some reason. I don't know if it has to do with spooky season or, something like that,
Probably.
or hocus pocusing, like you said. But so I do a lot of that. And then there's a lot of the intuitive coaching, energy healing, do different types of things like that, as well as mentorship. So, people who are sensitive and who've always been interested in growing their abilities, whether it's with healing or mediumship or psychic development or anything like that, or even just kind of goal achievement in, more earthly types of things, removing some of those blockages and barriers to achieving whatever it is that's on their heart or on their soul. So I do those types of things. I work with people online, so they can be anywhere. I work with people locally, so I'm located in Peoria, Arizona. Major crossroads are like Happy Valley and 67th Avenue. I also do mobile sessions as well. So I just in that case, it's just whatever the cost of the session is, and then charging for mileage to that location.
Hmm.
Because we are in a huge metropolitan area, but I try to make
Yes.
it work, especially for people who, maybe they've suffered strokes or they're not able to commute as comfortably and those types of things. It's very special for me to make sure that they get great care too, if they can't do virtual. And then, so as far as my website, it's www.gratefulkoi.com. And then I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at Grateful Koi, and also on TikTok at the.grateful.koi. As well. And I am working to kind of, start doing a little bit more, trying to kind of do the cool things that you do and just kind of put more content out there for healing and connection for people who maybe, like you said, like the stigma, or they're not there yet to actually, do face-to-face things or have one-on-one interactions, but they still need some of that healing tea, right? So I
Yes.
am working to build that as well. Also looking into starting different types of community groups as well, because I love to give back to the community and to just serve. As you have a serving heart, it's I think it's important to have that too. And I feel like as healers, we always kind of have that in the back of our mind or in the back of our soul as wanting to come out.
Yay. Any upcoming events? I know you have some goodies coming along the way that you just mentioned. Do you have any upcoming events?
I do. So I've loaded some of those onto my website under the event section. And I also have an event coming up in November. I want to say it's like November, and it's somewhere between the 17th and the 19th or something like that. I have to look, but it's one of the weekends in November. It'll be a sound healing and meditation event and Reiki event. So for a group of people. And that'll be brought together by West Valley Therapist Collective. So I work very closely with them as well. So yeah, and then I'll just work to keep loading things up on my site as they come. But, very excited to just be more active in the community and so grateful for the opportunity to be here with you and with all your viewers. And I'm just very thankful, very grateful.
Thank you. We are excited that you are here too. I mean, all of the websites, social medias, y'all like, follow, share, all of that. Visit the website, book. Let's go. Let's go now. Let's work on our healing, right? I mean, as I mentioned earlier, if we have a cold, we want to feel better. We'll take all the medicines and we'll do whatever we need to feel better. But the traumas and all that other icky stuff, we want to hold on to it. But you have people out there like Danielle or people out there like myself that is waiting to work with you and to help you feel better. So, this has been amazing, Danielle. I am so appreciative that you came and you took time out of your schedule. This
Thank you
is
for having
awesome.
me. You're like it's been so much fun just watching you and how you talk and how you interact and your passion for the community, and I'm very thankful.
Yes, I do anything for the mental health, right? I was like, I can't get everybody to see me, and it'll be selfish for me to think, get into counseling, get into counseling, get into counseling. Like you said, some people have those stigmas coming to counseling. So if they could come see you, it's like, I've done my work. I've done my part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and like we talked about, they work so well hand in hand. It just
Yes.
start wherever you're ready to. Start with the person who speaks to you, who connects with you, and don't give up if like after the first time, especially with counselors or healers, the first person that you try to work with, it doesn't work out. It's almost like dating. You have to have somebody who matches your vibe. And it
Yes.
to kiss a couple of frogs, right?
Yes, I'm glad that you mentioned that because that's true. And I've said that on the show. If it doesn't work the first time, don't run away. Try it the second time, because you go in with these misconceptions that you probably see on television, and that person may or may not be a match. And it's up to your comfort. But I will say this and I'll share it in front of Danielle. When we talk about comfort, that means comfort of you sharing. Sometimes, remember, healing isn't comforting.
Mhm.
I don't know where healing's at that feels comforting. If somebody finds that, please write me at Good Tea and Reads and let me know where it's at, because healing can feel kind of icky at times. So you may get those icky feelings, right? But stick with it. But again, if somebody's insulting you or you like, I'm not vibing, I don't feel comfortable, feel free to go find somewhere else. I really like, I know we're getting ready to close, but I like what Danielle said. 90% is awareness. Once you are aware, you can do something about it. But some of us, we just walk around and we're not aware that we may need healing. Danielle also mentioned this too. You may think it's in this area, but it may be in a completely different area. I've shared on one of my show, Danielle, and I'll share it with you really quickly and with the viewers and the listeners, that my job, I kept getting in trouble at my job like years ago. This is not my current job. okay, everyone, or a job. I'm not talking about you. But it's when I was a lot younger, I stayed in trouble. And I had a 3-page write up, Danielle. I'm ashamed to say I did. And my supervisor was like, "You need to go to counseling." And I'm like, "Forget her, but I had EAP. So I went to counseling and she was like, "Well, why are you here?" And I'm like, "My supervisor says I have an anger problem because, you know." And then so I was talking with her. This is pre-counselor. And she asked me about my parents. That was it. She's like, "Was your mom there for you? Was your dad there?" And I was like, "Wait, this isn't, why are we talking about this?" But doing the work with her, because she asked me that, then I wanted to know, like, what is she talking about my parents for? You talking about my mama? No, I'm joking. But but in seriousness, working with that, I thought it was this job because I hated that job so much. Again, not this job. Okay. I'm talking about years ago. I thought it was because I hated my job, but really it was something else that I needed to work on that was causing that anger.
Yep.
And
100%.
yeah, so that's what led me on my path to counseling. I mean, that and other stuff also. I was trying to get away from it. People stopping me in the stores, telling me their life stories, and me listening, loving to listen to it. Probably not giving the best counseling advice, but being that listening ear. So I just had to share that.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing, because I love that's the most perfect example, and that's exactly how it is, and that's exactly what it can be. You go in there kind of just, I don't know, I'm just gonna kick the door open. We'll see what happens. And it's, wait, what'd you say? How'd you know that about what? Like, and then it can be shocking, like you said, but it can change the whole trajectory of your life. So never throw in the towel. Things could change at any time. You could meet one person, one situation, one community, or have one thought that changes everything.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah. We just gave you the solution to the healing tea. Get over there and see Danielle, y'all, at the Grateful Koi. Please get over there and see if you're around. If you're somewhere else, she did mention virtual. She's here virtual. No excuses, right? None. Ever. So Danielle, before I close out, any other last words that you want to share?
Oh, yeah, exactly like you said, healing is not comfortable. If somebody lets you know where healing has been amazingly comfortable in Bali, and just the most perfect experience, I want to know, because that is not the healing that I know. And that's okay, because there's people who love, like passionately love, to help other people just like you and and I know so many other therapists and so many other healers who have such great hearts. And just give it a chance. Start wherever you can. Start with a book, start with a podcast, Good Tea and Reads. Start
Yes.
wherever you can, and just start. Just start.
Just start. That's all. Just start on the road to that 90%. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you for coming again. Y'all, this is another episode of Good Tea and Reads. Share it, share it, share it. If you need to know any information about Danielle and you're like, I didn't get that information, can you spell it out or whatever you need me to do? Hit me up at goodteaandreads@gmail.com, everyone. All right, so we're getting ready to close out until we have another episode next time. So y'all go sip on that healing tea that we gave you today, okay? And always remember, one, mental health is wealth, right? We're going to talk about that all the time. It is wealth. If you don't have it, you are robbing yourself from that healing and that well-being, okay? So signing off on Good Tea and Reads, where we're brewing insight, we're reading the facts. Mental health is at your fingertips. Bye.